Hey, what's going on, gang? This is Nate on the Stone. Welcome back to my channel. And this time around, we are looking at why exactly ideologues are lining up to hate against DC's upcoming movie, Joker. If you're a DC fan, it's been discouraging to see their flop of films. Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale's Dark Knight trilogy was a high watermark, but other than that, their movies really haven't been much to write home about, leaving Marvel as the uncontested king of the comic book movie. But that is starting to change. Last year, DC had a huge success with Aquaman. This spring, Shazam was another home run. And now, on October 4th, just about a week away from this recording, DC looks like it is geared up to have a third success with the release of Joker, starring a very scary Joaquin Phoenix. Now, even though the movie isn't going to be released until October 4th, it has been shown at the Venice and Toronto film festivals, and the general consensus of critics and audiences alike is that it's a really good movie. But Joker has been surrounded by negative vibes. Not because of on-set drama, not because the lead and the director decided to have an affair behind their significant others' backs. Not even because Joker is going to be the first R-rated DC movie, but because it has been argued that the movie is actually going to encourage white terrorism and incel violence. Quick detour. Incels, in case anyone was still blissfully ignorant, is a portmanteau of involuntary celibate, guys who would really like to have a girlfriend, but for whatever reason, don't, and who have, sometimes, taken out that frustration in acts of violence. The crime that really put this group on the map was the Isle Vista killer, who in 2014, after stabbing 3 people to death in his apartment, shot 11 more people on the campus of the University of California, Santa Barbara, killing 3 of them. He revealed his MO in an email manifesto in which he said, quote, "I don't know why you girls aren't attracted to me, but I will punish you all for it." Now back to Joker. Noel Ransom, writing at Vice News, made the argument that Joker is a quote-unquote terrifyingly realistic window into white terrorism. The reason, according to Ransom, is because Arthur Fleck is the universe's punching bag. He's socially awkward, not helped by the fact that his mental illness causes him to break out into peals of hysterical laughter. In a dead-end job as a clown for hire, he's bullied, beaten, and generally ignored by most people. As the movie progresses, his anger and need for validation grows, making him take on the persona of the Joker, a homicidal, psychopathic killer who, in the future, will not hesitate at all to shoot a woman, crippling her, sexually assault her, all the while taking pictures to drive her father insane to prove his point that there is just a hairbreadth of difference between normal people and himself. Or, like he says in The Dark Knight,
"I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other."
This, according to Ransom, is what makes this particular portrayal of the character so dangerous. Quote, "His growing obsession with taking revenge on a world that's unfair is the stuff of mass shootings and incel message boards." Unquote. Compounding all this is the fact that we actually sympathize with Arthur Fleck. We feel sorry for Phoenix's Joker, and this is the element that Ransom finds truly terrifying and confusing. Because, according to Ransom, if we start to sympathize with the character, we're going to start making excuses for him. We're going to start thinking, well, of course he had to turn into a psychotic, psychopathic clown. What other choice did he have? That was the only way that he was going to get justice for himself. That was the only way that he had a shot at changing the corrupt system that is Gotham City. That, in turn, is going to make us start feeling sympathy and making excuses for real-world white supremacists, nationalists, terrorists, and violent incels. Or if we have any of those inclinations, then we're going to take this movie as justification for violently striking out against society. Kaiser, a writer at the website Celibici, went even further and called Joker an apologia to, quote, "the angry white man who feels that he is losing his power and decides to take his power back through violence," unquote. And the reason Kaiser says white men are angry and feel like they are losing their power is because minorities and women are actually becoming more powerful in society, thus pushing white men out of their preconceived rightful place at the center of the universe. This is why Kathleen Newman-Bremong over at Yahoo News answered no to the question, did we really need a brutal movie about a white terrorist figure who uses gun violence to enact revenge on the society that rejects him? And this theme isn't just confined to a few websites on the internet. Time magazine got on board and said that the film quote-unquote lionizes and glamorizes the Joker and turns him into the patron saint of incels. Nor is it confined specifically to the left. Jim Garrity over at National Review wrote, quote, "In an era where it seems like one angry young man after another takes the routine frustrations of life as an excuse to write up a manifesto and shoot up a public place, a quasi-sympathetic portrait of a flamboyant, violent anarchist feels like a bad idea," unquote. Even the Pentagon got in on this, sending out an email memo to its personnel warning them that screenings of Joker could be the sites of incel violence. Now, to be perfectly clear, I myself have not yet seen this movie, since neither the Toronto nor the Venice Film Festivals had the foresight to actually invite me to their screenings. But just from watching the trailers, just from reading some early reviews, I can say with 100% guarantee that Joker does none of these things. Incel violence has definitely happened. There was the Isle Vista killer that I mentioned earlier. There was Elliot Rogers, the young man who drove a van into a crowd of people in Toronto, killing 10 people, and who, FYI, sang the praises of the Isle Vista killer. There was the LA fitness killer who shot 12 people, killing 3, and then himself, because he hadn't had a girlfriend in 25 years. But incel violence isn't the bubbling cauldron that some people make it out to be. In a BBC documentary, The Secret Life of Incels, a former incel by the name of Jack Peterson makes this observation, quote, "He, Elliot Rogers, the Toronto killer, is talked a lot about incel communities, often in a sort of, I would say, an ironic kind of praising way. People think he's perceived as some sort of hero figure, but I think he's more kind of just made fun of for the most part." Peterson should know, as his time as a self-identifying incel, he wasn't just a member of a community, he was actually a moderator of one of these online communities. Adam Jessel, the executive producer of the documentary, backed up Peterson's claim by saying that the odds of a self-identifying incel actually acting out violently was quote-unquote very small. And those odds are not going to increase because a company releases, when we get right down to bedrock, a comic book movie. Nor is Joker going to increase the odds of people actually turning to white supremacy and or terrorism. We've actually had movies released dealing with white supremacy and or white terrorism before. Things like American History X, Betrayed, and White Lies. Did anyone actually turn to white supremacy or actually become a white terrorist after seeing those movies? To make an even broader point, like Christina Newland says in the UK Guardian, we have had movies in the past where the villain is actually the protagonist. Think of movies like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, or Bonnie and Clyde, or The Sting, or The Godfather, or Wolf of Wall Street. Did any of these movies actually encourage and inspire people to become villains and criminals themselves? Heck, The Dark Knight portrayed the Joker as an out-and-out terrorist. Was there an uptick in people actually turning to terrorism after watching that movie? And no, James Holmes, the Aurora killer, doesn't count because to this day, we still don't know what caused him to snap. And no, again, the climate is not different now because Donald Trump is sitting in the White House fanning the flames of white supremacy. White supremacy is not on the rise because of Donald Trump. White supremacy is on the rise where it is because we live in an empty society and an empty culture. But there is a reason why ideologues hate and fear this movie. And the first reason why this is because this movie actually destroys the intersectional hierarchy. We've talked about intersectionality before here on this channel. The idea that certain factors like race, sex, orientation, etc. converge or intersect in certain individuals, meaning that they have more oppression to overcome. In this framework, a black woman is more oppressed than a white woman because she's black and a woman 2 minorities for the price of 1. Or a black lesbian is more oppressed than a black man because 3 minorities trumps 1 minority. It's important to remember here too that according to intersectional thinking, minorities cannot be the villains because they're oppressed. And if you're oppressed, you cannot be evil. Take racism as one example. According to intersectional thinking, minority people cannot be racist. Full stop. Because racism is a combination of hatred and power. And since, according to the left and according to the parameters of intersectional thinking, minorities cannot have power because they are the ones who are automatically oppressed. As Andrew Morgan, a civil rights lawyer in Toronto, told Vice News, even if every single person of color straight up said that they hated white people, that would not count as racism. White people can even be prevented from buying Pride Parade merchandise on their own time with their own money because of the color of their skin, like what happened to the musician Sima Zin. And this still does not qualify as racism. At the end of the day, say the intersectional thinkers, it's just about hurt feelings, nothing more. Joker takes this intersectional hierarchy and turns it on its head. By the very rules that intersectionality sets up, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is oppressed on multiple levels. He's mentally ill. He still lives with his mom, meaning that he is part of a single-parent household. He is underemployed, meaning, according to the rules established on the left, that he is being oppressed by the 1%. He even starts a movement protesting the corruption of the city, in which participants carry around signs that read, "Eat the rich." Occupy Wall Street, anyone? Yes, he is still white, but he still checks off several intersectional boxes, and he's an activist to boot. But instead of being the heroic underdog like Steve Carell was in Welcome to Marwin, Fleck decides to become a villain by his own choice. To an ideologue, this is a direct attack on the faith. What makes it worse is that this attack comes from mainstream Hollywood, an institution that is, let's not beat around the bush here, totally and fully committed to the leftist agenda. This is the equivalent of a close family member drawing a huge question mark, Riddler style, on one of the tenets of your shared faith. And this leads to another reason why ideologues hate this movie and find this movie so terrifying. It accurately and realistically portrays evil. We are very uncomfortable looking at portrayals and representations of evil. And that's a good thing. It's good to have that visceral gut reaction against looking upon evil. That's called being normal. But ideologues on the left have an additional hurdle to overcome. They don't believe in fallen human nature, which says that any single one of us can choose evil because evil inclinations exist in every single person. Just look at intersectionality again. Minorities hating white people because they are white isn't racism, it's just prejudice, caused, by the way, by the institutional racism of white people. Poverty exists because people are oppressed by the 1%. Members of ISIS and Al-Qaeda commit terrorist acts because of the legacy of colonialism and imperialism from the West. The black community here in America has an exorbitant crime rate because of the legacy of slavery. This is why so many ideologues firmly believe in the idea of utopia. They actually believe that if they are put in charge, given all the power, then they will be able to legislate against these outside forces, completely annihilate evil, and thus bring about peace. But that's not reality. Alexander Solzhenitsyn famously said that the battle between good and evil takes place in every human heart because the line dividing good from evil exists in every human heart. And to see the truth of that statement, all you have to do is open up your news app at any given time of the day. Every single one of us, you, me, everyone, is capable of evil because evil is internal. In this way, the Joker was actually kind of right when he said that there wasn't much difference between us and him, because we all have the potential in here to become like him. And if that's the case, if evil isn't external but is internal, then it can't be legislated away, which means that utopia is a pipe dream. And that makes the entire worldview of the ideologues crumble. Joker is not an apologia to angry white men. Instead, it is a reflection into our own souls, a reminder of what we ourselves could become. That is the terrifying downside of free will. The redemption, the good news, the silver lining, is that if we have the potential to become the Joker, then we have just as much equal potential to become Batman. But what say you? Is Joker the necessary kick in the pants we need to remind us that evil is actually internal? Or is this just a way for DC to get publicity and money? As always, let me know your thoughts, your ideas, and your opinions down in the comment section below. Well, that about wraps up everything for right now, gang. As always, if you liked the video, whether you agreed with me or not, don't forget to show your support by giving it a like, sharing it with your friends, and leaving a comment. And if you really like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for notifications so that you will always know when I release new videos like this every Tuesday. Videos you're not going to want to miss. As always, thank you for watching, for giving me a bit of your day. Thank you to everyone who has already subscribed. I appreciate you all. And I will see you all again here next week, gang, on top of the stone. Ciao.